Welcome to the Suncoast In-Depth Podcast. I'm Brett Watson, joined again by Ricardo Aviles and Dr. Troy Doucet. We're in the 13th chapter of The Universal Christ.
Lucky 13.
Lucky 13. This was a good chapter, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man.
It Can't Be Carried Alone is the title. Why don't we start off with that section that really stuck out for you?
The one towards the end?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we all highlighted this line. It says, privatized salvation never accumulates into corporate change because it attracts and legitimates
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
legitimates individualists to begin with. Think about that.
Yeah. It's a good thing to think about.
Right. And I mean, he's setting up this idea of Christianity has turned into much more individualistic practice as opposed to more of a corporate body.
Right.
That we're in this together. We carry the suffering together. We carry the love together. We carry the pain together. It's much more of a group mentality as opposed to your individual salvation.
Yeah. We might have talked about this before in one of the other podcasts, but anyway, it bears repeating. Hyper-individualism, it kind of goes hand in hand with an affluent culture.
Mm-hmm.
It goes hand in hand with a need to literalize things, because things become much more detailed in terms of technology and so on. You're the technology guy. But this is what it seems to me. This is just Brett's opinion.
Sure.
And we definitely, as Americans, are fixated on the individual. I mean, and in some ways it's good, right? Our Constitution tries to keep this tension between the good of the masses and the good of the individual, the rights of the masses, the rights of the individual. It's a difficult thing to do.
100%.
And I would say that America has done that better than any other civilization in the past anyway. So nevertheless, it's that hyper-individualism is inconsistent with the biblical emphasis.
Yep. Yeah. I don't think it's been I don't think a lot of time has been spent thinking of it that way. Mm-hmm. And I think if somebody were to say you took a fundamental Christian out of their church, had them read this chapter and this idea, I don't think that they would disagree, because this isn't doctrine or theological differences. This is I just think it's one of those things that you just don't really think about. And I don't know that you would necessarily disagree with this idea.
But that's exactly why he finishes that statement with, think about that.
Exactly.
Because it is something that needs to be thought about. Well, I'll just ask you guys. I know, we try to be positive around here.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the church overall, present day, how much transformation is taking place? Transformation meaning the group there's corporate change, as he puts it.
Mm-hmm.
There's change going on so that the church is becoming more and more a reflection of the body of Christ, or the body of the Christ in society. What do you think?
That's a tough question, man. It's hard to answer, because I think what you said earlier is so profound in how it affects and infects the body. Because I don't view technology, right, as a type of gadgetry, right? Like my phone or my key or whatever. Technology is a way of thinking about things, and I think that's why Rohr says think about that. But we have to frame the thinking in a particular kind of way that removes the individualized salvific experience. I said a prayer and now I'm saved, right? Transactional to that transformational. And what it does is what we said, we were kind of talking before we started recording. It's that moment when they become we.
Yes.
From individualized transactions of legitimizing my doctrine, right? Because that's what technology is. It's this elevating human rationality and logicality as the quintessential part of our existence. And this was the rise of the apologist, right? As long as I could prove something, if I could prove it, then there has to be a mandated transaction, right? But I've never seen a person's life changed by me proving something to be true. I've seen people's lives changed when the corporate body has rallied around them in moments of need and desperation. So I don't know if that makes sense or not, sure. But the point is we have to move away from technological thinking that tries to prove that what we're saying is true into more communal existence, transformational moments of being there, being with, as opposed to what do we say all the time, Brett? It's not about being right. Mm-hmm. It's about right being. And I think if we can switch that frame of thinking.
Yeah, that was so important to him in this chapter that's how he ended it. Yeah. He literally says the line, it is no longer about being correct. No, it is about being connected. Being in right relationship is much, much better than trying to be right. And
that's anti technological thinking. There's nothing wrong with being logical and rational.
Of course not.
But the point is that the call to Christianity is incarnational. Yes. It is to awaken that which is always already within me, and that is the universal Christ. The thing I've written at length about is excarnation, is when Christianity becomes that non-visceral, non-experiential,
non-relational,
non-communal, non-transformative into doctrinal, creedal. These are the things which stipulate the rules of engagement as apart to engagement without any rules. I love you regardless.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, is the heart of where what he's trying to get to is most Christians repeat a prayer and then they'll go on their Facebook and say, I got saved, or whatever the case may be. And it's very hyper-individualized. And for me, what I see is technologized, right? That's the way they're thinking about it. They've proven somebody's convinced them of something, and they feel the need to engage in that transaction. But it offers little transformation, or at least transformation that's worthwhile to the body of Christ, only to that small aspect of it. So,
yeah. I remember in my youth ministry days taking my youth group to Acquire the Fire.
Yeah.
And
Ron Luce.
The one year, Josh McDowell, the apologist, toured with him and laid out all these apologetic arguments for the veracity of the Bible.
Right.
And I personally was thrilled because I love that stuff, and I tend to lean rational. And but what I recognized right away is that had little to no impact on my kids and their personal transformations into the Christ-like versions of themselves. Nothing to do with it. Right. Little to nothing.
It made them it helped them defend their religion a little better, I'm sure.
Yeah. But like you said, it's technology. All it does, it's just functioning to achieve something, right?
But I don't think that that's necessarily a problem just within Christianity. I think that's just a human problem.
It is.
Once you've picked a tribe, you're going to defend that tribe. Yeah. I mean, how many videos are out there with Ben Shapiro dunks on college kid, liberal, it's being right or winning an argument seems to be the focus of a lot of ideological arguments.
Yeah. Yes.
So there is a hyper focus, not just within Christianity, but I think in the world. And I think we've completely individualized ourselves, even though we're connected to, like we've never been before. I think there is, it has infected. And I think that's part of the reason why I think this Christ message is so important for everyone.
Yeah.
It's not just Christians. I think it's literally this stuff could change the world and how we view each other. And when we're looking at a situation to where it's like, no, we're all humans. We may have different preferences. We may have different interests and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, we're humans. Like we're in this together. But unfortunately, we focus on more about what we don't have in common or how we can prove the other side wrong.
Yeah.
I'm in correspondence right now with Colby Martin. He's an author. He actually contacted Suncoast because he's doing a book tour for his latest book called The Shift. I'm going to butcher this subtitle, but it's something about weathering or surviving the transition from evangelicalism to progressive Christianity.
Yep.
And one of the things that he said in a podcast that I listened to, conformity is not the same as love. This is actually Rohr putting it this way. Conformity is not the same as love. Joining does not imply an actual change of heart and mind.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what I also remember in youth ministry that did change my kids was the relationships that they had, the really meaningful relationships that they had with their what we called adult encouragers. And these were just the adult volunteers that led the little cell groups, and the relationships that they forged on the mission trips that we took.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Helping others, right? So this chapter is, it's titled, It Can't Be Carried Alone. And what he means by that is this human experience and all of the ups and downs and pressures and joys and all of this intense experience, we're not meant to carry alone.
No.
And so I think that on the positive side, I do see more and more of the church. I mean, I hate the labels, but we would be considered a progressive Christian church, right? And we're growing. We're not growing like, certain evangelical churches. It's a different kind of growth, but I think that we're growing because there's a growing demographic of people who are realizing, whether it's in their religious life or just in their life in general, like you were saying before, that I can't carry it alone.
Sure.
And I wasn't really even meant to. And all of the technology that I put into play, as good as it might be, does not achieve for me the growth that I somehow know I'm capable of. And so there is more and more of a communal or covenantal look to the church as we move forward, I think.
Yeah, I think there's also the aspect of suffering in the sense that if I have somebody going through something in my life, they lean on me a lot more. Or even the example of after Ian, I met more of my neighbors and talked to more of my neighbors before and after Ian, after we were doing cleanup, putting up shutters. Our community really came together. I mean, and now we're back, life is back to normal. Electricity's working again. Nobody's dealing with any sort of major issues. And then we're back to our individual homes, and individual, because we don't need each other as much in that moment. But during suffering, during tragedy, during pain, I think there is that need. It's like, I have to ask for help. And obviously there's a lot of people that carry that stuff on their own. But for the most part, I think most humans lean on each other during those times of suffering. So if we can just switch to that to, we are going to help everyone. We're going to be proactive. Like I tell the story all the time during the hurricane. Before that hurricane came, there was a guy riding around on his bike with a screwdriver, just going door to door. He's like, "Hey, do you need help putting your shutters up? Do you need help putting your..." Like, he was the proactive person, and that's what the church needs to be. We need to be that guy on our bicycle with a screwdriver, like riding around saying, "Hey, what do you need?
So true.
How can I help you? How can I help you?"
Man, that's a great point. And he obviously in this chapter he emphasizes the not carrying the suffering alone.
Yeah,
quite a bit. I feel like we're always talking about suffering, But
it's part of the human story, though.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a big part of the human story. It's, how does Peterson put it? It's the one thing that you can't deny.
Exactly.
In reality.
Exactly. You will have suffering.
So I'm going to, a little bit of confession.
Go for it.
My biggest regret during Ian, the hurricane, was not staying here at the church with everybody. Didn't do it because, my wife had such anxiety about so many things, the house, the dogs, and so we had good reasons not to stay here. But I could tell when I told Larry that he was just sad, disappointed, and I think it's because he has this community mindset, he's very communal, and he loved to see everybody leaning on each other in one place during a time of turmoil.
Sure.
Yeah, that storm was scary.
Yeah.
So I really wish that we had just packed the dogs up, come down here, and stayed here. The other thing is, I did. I helped neighbors. I got out on the roof with my next door neighbor, and I helped him put on his shutters. And I had neighbors helping me on the front because my ladder wasn't tall enough, that kind of thing. We helped move debris and things like that. But I missed out on this collective effort here. Because every time we stopped by, nobody was there.
Yeah.
There was still debris there, but so that's just kind of a regret that I have. But that's so important. It's a great example of what he's getting at here.
Yeah.
Sometimes life will throw things at us, right, that show us that you can't carry it all alone.
Yeah.
You weren't meant to carry it all alone. We were created to be interdependent.
Well, and I think he's speaking to both. He's speaking to the person who's in the suffering, but he's also speaking to the person who's not.
Yeah.
And the understanding of this is a call to action. You need to be available and helping people around you. This isn't about right or wrong. This isn't about saved or unsaved. This is about humanity. And this is how Christ changes the world. This is how the Christ changes the world, that message.
Imagine if the church, collectively, all that call themselves Christ followers, decided that they would set aside differences and pool resources to tackle human problems.
Yeah.
Imagine.
It'd be amazing. I mean, we tell the story all the time of that one. I can't remember the name of the organization, nor do I want to recall it, but there was an organization that we were aligned with.
Yes.
That we were going through the process of becoming a ministry partner, which is us just giving them money, helping them out, helping their cause. And they wanted us to sign theological statements that we didn't agree with. And we said, we're not going to sign this because we don't agree with a lot of these theological points, but we still want to partner with you. We still want to help you. We still want to provide resources for you because we believe in your organization.
Yeah.
And they said no.
Yeah.
So they were more concerned with making sure that our doctrine was correct as opposed to helping further their cause and help people.
Yes.
And I think that's the problem.
It was my first week working here.
Yeah.
I overheard that whole conversation.
And Larry even said, what if we were a Jewish synagogue? Do you take money from Jews? Well, yeah, because they're a different faith. But you guys are Christians.
Yeah. They're not supposed to be lined up with us.
Exactly. Isn't that funny?
Oh, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
It was mind-boggling then.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. Yeah. I was actually going to bring up that story.
Beat you to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sad. It just doesn't need to be that way.
No.
And I hope that we continue to see more and more of a trend, where we're coming together and looking for each other, looking to bear each other's burdens and joys.
I know it sounds a lot of like kumbaya, let's just all get along and hold hands, but we can have that ideal, we can at least aim for that. We're not always going to get along, but we can at least try. Try to focus on the things we have in common. Focus on the common mission of helping each other and the common man. Like I think that's something we can all agree with.
That's right.
I'm glad to be a part of this place.
Oh yeah,
For sure.
me too.
And the communal mentality and the desire to reach out.
Mm-hmm. But I think, it is important. Like one of our missions is, or our statements or goals is, we all bring something to the table.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like, you may not be able to bring resources to the table. You may not be able to bring X, Y, or Z, but you can bring something. If you don't have money, you can bring your time. You can help change oil in a single parent's car. You can help sort Mothers Helping Mothers stuff. You can help volunteer at different community events.
You can just help your neighbor next door.
You can help your neighbor next door, exactly.
It doesn't even have to be directly tied to the
Suncoast.
faith community that you belong to.
True.
It's just being Jesus to people, right?
Just checking in on your neighbor.
Yeah.
Just calling them or going to their door and just being like, hey, how's everything going? You okay? Do you need anything?
I almost moved to Uganda to start an orphanage because I was so afraid of my rational bent not getting in the way of my transformation. And I knew that if I was just immersed in the suffering of the world, then I couldn't avoid my transformation, I didn't do it, a lot of reasons. But I wonder a lot. I think about it probably every week. I wonder what would have happened if we'd have done that, Where would I be today in terms of my own transformation into the likeness of Jesus?
Sure.
Yeah, man.
So, but there's plenty to do, no matter where you are, right?
100%.
So I always say, why fly out of a mission field to go to another mission field?
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
It's easier to avoid the suffering of the world here than it is other places.
That's right.
There's, just to be realistic. But you're right. It's still a mission field.
Oh, yeah.
So plenty of suffering to go around.
That's right. That's right.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Good talk.
Yeah. Thank you, Brett.